this course about Git and GitHub, guys. So what we will discuss? So we'll discuss about the Git and GitHub. Git and GitHub. So what we will cover? What are the prerequisites? Right. So prerequisite is none, guys. Everyone can learn this course because of a developer QA. So nowadays everyone is using the Git and GitHub to store their data, right? And duration 5 days, guys. So on the trainer is guys myself Hari. I will tell you everything the intro. So just this is what we are delivering. 12 plus years of EXP, guys. Okay. So class timings 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. Okay. So note what we will provide in this copy, soft copy of a material, class notes, and class notes and class videos recorded videos will shared will share via Google Drive, guys. Okay, we'll share via Google Drive. So these are the prerequisites, timings, and the duration. Okay, so yeah. So what we will learn in this course, something like so
So
this is a DURGASOFT Git and GitLab is a training, guys. This is for a beginner ones. So on the trainer. So myself, guys, myself Hari Cheriko, I'm a DevOps consultant and solution architect with 12 plus years of industry experience as a real-time and trainer. So I have done a few certifications. I am a ITL with V3 certified engineer, and I'm a Red Hat certified system administrator, and I am a Red Hat certified Linux engineer, and I am a AWS certified solution architect, and I am a Kubernetes certified administrator, guys. Okay.
so Hari, one question.
Yeah.
So Monday to
Yeah.
Friday is the duration, right?
So I'm Monday to Friday only.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, we'll cover you guys. We'll cover you everything on Monday to Friday. Okay. So if you want, we will extend half an hour on Friday. Okay. So because of so many people are busy with the weekends, right? Sometimes I also busy with the weekends. So that's the reason most of the people are not interested to join on Saturday. So in last 3 4 batches, the people are not able to join. Some people are joining and some people are not joining. But I will show you the last session. Will show you the something like a GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, how we can copy the how we can merge the request, how we can create the backups, how we can revert the changes, how you can cherry pick the changes. We'll show you on the last video. So that's the reason. So mostly it will take another 30 minutes in the last Friday, or else something like I will cover it 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes on every day. Okay, I will extend.
Sure, sure.
Okay, yeah,
Sir, one small note, sir. GitHub Actions
yeah.
also covered, sir, in this course.
No, no, no. GitHub Actions will not cover this. In this, so I will show you how we can use it. That GitHub, GitLab CI or GitHub Actions and Bitbucket CI/CD. So that is
Okay.
a separate entity, right? That actions CI/CD, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So yep, yep. So we will not cover within 5 days that CI/CD also, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any doubts, guys? Okay. So introduction to Git and GitHub, that usage of GitHub user interface, command line usage of Git. So towards to advanced usage also I will show you. So the prerequisites none guys, but pay attention. So it will be very easy. So nothing to worry about it. Just CLI also very easy, and the GUI also I will show you. So goals and objectives at the end of this class, you should know how to get started with the GitHub, be able to work with Git repositories, find information and support to learn more. Okay. So module one, introduction to version control system. What is version control system? Types of centralized and distributed version control system. Benefits of version control. So introduction to Git, history of a Git and GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. So Git installation and configuration. I will show you how to install the Git on Windows, Linux, Mac. So basic Bit configuration, username, email address, Git GUI tools versus command line, something like so we have a Eclipse GUI tools and Git bash is the command line, and I will show you the VS Code also. So how you can write the code in the VS Code and how we can push that code to the remote repository like GitHub, BitLab, Bitbucket. Okay, so Git basics, guys, how you can create a Git repository, cloning, Git directory structure, checking status, adding files, committing changes, viewing history, and working with branches. So Git workflow and collaboration will show you, and the undoing and resetting the changes, and tags and releases, and Git advanced topics, rebase, cherry pick, hooks. So Git with GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. We'll show you these three, guys. I will show you mostly on GitHub, but we'll show it to you GitLab, Bitbucket, the same. These all are the remote repositories. So what is Git? What is GitHub? I will show you today, guys. Okay. So we'll show you the real-time scenarios also. Okay. Yeah. So what is Git, guys? What is? So what is Git? Does anyone knows? Guys?
Git is a version control system, sir.
No, I don't know what
Okay.
is Git.
Git is a version control system. Yes, it is right.
Can you explain what is Git? This is the first time I will be learning Git.
Yeah, I will tell you. No worries. So what is a Git, guys? Git is a so what is a Git? Git is a version control software. So what is version control software, guys? So for example, so if you are working on the project, okay. So if you are working on the project, some people, for example, sorry, we'll show you this way. So this is a developer, guys. So this is a developer. This developer is working on the Hyderabad, and some other guy is working on the Pune. Some other guy is working on the USA. Some other guy is working on the UK or something like wherever place. So Chennai. So this guy is working from Hyderabad. So this guy is working from Pune. So this guy is working from UK. So this guy is working from USA. Right. So so this guy write the code, and this guy write the code, and this guy write the code, and this guy write the code. Right. So something like so how we can store it this code. So where we can store that code. So where we can store that code. So how to integrate all the developers code at one place. How to integrate all the developers code at one place. How to integrate all the developers code at one place. How to integrate, guys? And the second point is something like how to track code changes in the project. How to track the code changes in the project. So for example, so we have a project. So this is the project. So in this project, they are pushing their code into a repository. For example, this is the storage. So where they can store the data, and integrate the code and deploy it on the production environment. So deploy it on the production environment. Guys, now you understood what is Git? Guys, what is Git?
It's a
To store
centralized
the
repository
mm,
for multiple users where multiple users can use the single place to store the code and
mm,
make changes on the centralized repository.
yes. So all the developers can connect to a project repository to store source code, all the source code. Guys, understood?
Yeah.
Yeah. So next, what is a so Git is nothing but a so we can develop the code and so we can we can store it in the one place. So that is nothing but a Git. So what is a GitHub, guys? So what is the GitHub? So what is GitHub? So what is a Git? So GitHub. So what is a GitHub? GitHub is a platform which is used to store project or related files or source code at one place. At one place. Guys, understood? So what is that? I will show you.
Hari, one small request. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you show more practically rather than theoretical?
Yeah. I
Theoretically,
will
we
show
can
you. Will show
understand.
you. Initially, you need to. Yeah. So initially, you need to know, right?
So
So
while
the
you are
practical.
showing, right? No, my
Mm-hmm.
request is, if you make it
Mm,
100% lab related stuff by showing, GUI or CLI,
uh,
we can understand also. Because whatever you talk, unless we learn that theory, we cannot
mm.
understand. Okay, that is my
Yes,
suggestion.
yes. I will show you. I will show you the practical. I
Okay.
will show you the practical. So, for example, yeah, you want to get back. So, for example, this is a so this and so whatever the code right, you are writing this code. So you are writing this code and copy it in the code. So where I want to show VS Code. So for example, BSP text is the code. So this is the code. The developers are develop that code and push it to their local repository. Then, so the GitHub. What is the GitHub? So GitHub is a centralized repository. GitHub is a repository. This is the GitHub. You saw? So GitHub. So this is, for example, this is our repository. So whatever the developer develop that code, right? They push it from local to, so they push it from a local to, so this is the local, from local to a remote repository. They will push the code from their local repository to the remote repository. Remote repositories are GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Okay, so their changes are pushing from the project. This is the AWS DevOps material is the project. They are pushing their code. The developers will push that code to their local repository to a remote repository and integrate this code and deploy it on the production environment. Guys, understood?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I will
using
show you.
GitHub, you can create a project from where multiple users can push the code to
yep,
the
yep,
centralized
yes,
repository. Okay.
yes, yes. So push the code to the centralized repository. Now, this guy, some guys, I will show you this. Now you understood. So this is the project. What the project? So something like a, for example, FB app application. Okay. So FB app is the repository. So whatever the developers develop the code in the local and they can push it to the remote repository. They can push their code to the remote repository. Yeah, they can push the code to the remote repository. The remote repositories are something like a GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. They send it to the GitHub repository or something like a GitLab or something like a Bitbucket or something like a Azure repo or something like AWS repo. These all are the remote repositories. What these all are? These all are the remote repositories. Guys, understood? So these all are the remote repo. Some companies are using GitHub, some companies are using GitLab, so some companies are using Bitbucket, some companies are using Azure repo, AWS repo, whatever it may be. So this is the remote repositories. The people are store their code into this remote repositories. Guys, understood? So how you can now you understood so how to integrate all the developers code at one place. Now you understood how to integrate, guys?
Using GitHub.
Yes, very good. One place. Right. Now you understood. So yeah, the second is how to track code changes. How to track the code changes, guys, in the project. So how to track the code changes? So for example, who are the people, Durga, Hari, these people are pushed the code to the remote repository. How we can track it? So how we can track it? Modified the who modified and when modified? Who modified? When modified and what modified? I need to track all these things because of so for example, I pushed the code today. Tomorrow I am seeing to that code that was deleted. We don't know who deleted that code. How you can verify who deleted, who modified, so when deleted, what modified. So the tracking, all the tracking will be available for the GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket or Azure repo. So it will be tracking who modified, when modified, what modified, why modified. Guys, so that is the reason we are using the a Git repository to track the code, changes. Guys, understood now? What is Git and GitHub? So why GitHub?
Understood.
Guys,
Understood. Okay. Before
mm,
we
mm, mm,
forget next topic, right? If you can show practical on this one,
mm.
it will sit in mind.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
will show you. I will show you how to install that one.
Yeah.
Right? So something like so this is the GitHub repository, GitLab repository, Bitbucket repository, Azure repository. So how we can push this code? So we install the Git client. What is that, guys? Git client need to install on every developer laptop. What is that? Git client need to install on every client laptop. So from this Git to, so from this, so local Git to, they can push it to the remote repositories. From local to, they will push to, they will push from local to remote. The same like as a, they will push the code from local to remote. So what are the remote repositories, guys? The remote repositories are, these are the remote repositories. These are the remote repositories. Yeah, I will show you practically, guys. You will understand. So I will show you practically. So now you understood, right? So what is a Git? What is a GitHub? Right? Yeah. So GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related files, source code at one place. What is this? So this is the GitHub. So this is the GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related files, source code at one place. So this is the GitHub repository. GitHub repository. In GitHub, we can create a source code repository to store the project code. How you can create the, so for example, this is the GitHub account. So this is the GitHub account. So if you go to the repositories, if you go to the repositories, okay, these all are the my repositories. These all are my repositories. If you go to the projects, right? So this is the project. So repositories. Yeah. Why it is not showing? Because of I logged in as a DurgaSoft.
So repository is like
One
a
second.
storage location, right?
Repository is nothing but a storage location. DurgaSoft. Yeah. Repository is nothing but a storage location where we can push the code. So where we can push the code, store the code. For example, these all are the codes. This is the BSP test is the repository. So I want to create a new repository. So in GitHub, we can create a source code repository to store the project code. So how you can create it? So go to here. So this is your account and PSP test already created, right? So if you just go to the repositories, so here you can click the new repository. Just create the repository. FB app is the repository. So in GitHub, we can create a source code repository to store the project code. Okay. So this is the repository. So here, so this in fb.app, so nothing is available. Just created the repository. We can store that, we can store the code. So how we can push the code? So whatever the developer develop that code, right? So in developer develop that code, we can push it to this code to the from local to remote repository. From local to remote repository. Understood?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So Git is a platform which is used to store project related files, source code at one place. So in GitHub, we can create source code repository to store the project code. Okay. to store project code. Understood? So all the developers, what is that? All the developers can connect to the project repository. Can connect to the project repository. What is the project repository? FB app. So the people will connect to the project repository and push their code to the project repository. So from local to remote. So where is that? So from local to remote. So how we can get the from remote repository to local repository? Then how we can push that code from local repository to remote repository? Right? So we'll show you. So first initially something like, so what is the source code? Now you understood the GitHub. So I will tell you, GitHub is the distributed version control system. First, what is version control system? What is CVS, centralized version control system? What is distributed version control system? I will show you. Okay. Yeah. So all the developers can connect to the project repository to store all the source code, right guys? So what is that? Code integration will become very easy. So what is that? Code integration will become very easy, right? Because of if you push that, right, the people will push the code from here to here. So all the code will be available here. All the code will be available here. So we can integrate this code and we can deploy it on the server is very easy, right? So and so we can track the code also. We can track who modified, when modified, what modified, why modified, right? So if you use the Google Drive or something, like we don't know, right? OneDrive, Google Drive, who downloaded the, who modified it, uh, who deleted, when this was deleted, it will not show you. So but in the this remote repositories, this source code management tool, that so it will track the all the code, right? Yes, very good. GitHub. So GitHub repository will monitor all code changes. All code changes will modified. How they will modify? How they will monitor something like who modified? Who modified? When modified? What modified? Right? So what modified? Why modified? It will track everything. It will track everything. Guys, understood? Yeah, I showed you, right? Git client. So Git client, right? So I will tell you Git client branch everything. So before that, source code. What is that? Source code repository tools. Source code repository tools are version control system. Source code repository tools are version control system, right? So I will show you. Yeah. So source code management tool. So source code management tool is nothing but a, so guys, now see here, something like any project developers will be available or multiple developers will be available. something like how we can control something like so multiple developers will work on the same project. Developers will be working from multiple locations. All developers code should be stored at one place, and to integrate all the developers code at one place, so we will use the source code repository tools. So what are the source code repository tools? So we have a two types of source code repository tools. So one is a centralized version control system, so the other one is the distributed version control system. So Git is the distributed version control system, and so that SVN subversion is the version centralized version control system. Right. So what is the drawback in the centralized version control system? So what are the advantages in the distributed version control system? So why Git is popular? So why Git is popular? Git is popular because of a Git is a distributed version control system. So what is the difference between centralized version control system and distributed version control system? So centralized version control, you see guys. So only, so this is the developer workstation, and they directly push it to the server. The code will push it to the server. Something like if if the server crashes, the entire code will be gone. The entire code will be gone. So there is no backup here. There is no backup directly. We can commit the code to the server. So we can commit code to the server. So in the distributed version control system, you see guys, so this is your laptops. This is your developer laptop workstations, and push it to the local repository. Okay. In the distributed version control system, so we will store the code in the local repository as well as remote repository, as well as remote repository. So we can push the code to the local repository first. So we can push the code from your laptop to local repository, laptop to local repository, laptop to local repository. So then from local repository to remote repository, you can push the code from your local repository to remote repository, local repository to remote repository, local repository to remote repository. Now we have a code in our local repository as well as a remote repository. If something goes wrong on the local repository, the code will be available on the remote repository. If something goes on the remote repository, the code will be available in the local repository. So this is the advantage of a distributed version control system. Okay. So I will show you this one then. Yeah. So in the distributed version controls tool that supports distributed non-linear workflows by providing the data assurance for developing the quality of a software. So this is your local repository. Okay. So this is our local repository. So from the local repository, you push it to the remote repository. What are the remote repositories? GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure repo, or something like AWS repo. So right. So these all are the remote repositories. In the whatever the developer develop that code, right? That developer the code is in the working directory. So if you want to push from your working directory to local repository, we have this code. We have the command. Need to execute this command. Git add git commit. So from local repository, remote repository, we need to use the git push and git pull command. So first code will be sent it to the local repository. From the local repository, then from the local repository, we need to send it from the remote repository. So remote repository. I will show you that one, guys. I will show you that one. So now you understood, right? Why Git is popular? Why Git is popular? Who developed the Git? Guys, does anyone knows who developed the Git? Guys, does anyone knows who developed the Git? Guys, who developed Linux, guys? Who developed Linux? Linus Torvald. Who is that, guys? Linus Torvald developed the Git. Linus Torvald developed the Git, right? And he released as a open source. Guys, what is open source? What is open source? There is no developers, huh?
Anybody can
So,
contribute to the application.
yep. So the first point is free of cost. So the second point for the open source is source code also available. So if you have a source code of the Git, is it able to modify it as per your convenient? Right, guys? Yeah. So some companies have took that source code and created their own type of repositories. So from the GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. So these all are the they took the source code and created their own GUI tools, guys. So what is that? So these are the GUI tools. They developed Git as a open source, and Git is a CLI. What is that? Git is a CLI, command line interface. Command line interface. How you can interact with the Git, guys? You can interact with the Git through commands only. Git commands, we can use the git commands like I showed you, right? Git add, git commit, git status, git push, git pull, git clone, right? These all are the CLI commands. So these all are the CLI commands. Okay. So open source Git tools. So some companies are took that source code and created their own GUI tools, something like a Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub. So GitHub initially it's a community. Now it acquired by the Microsoft. Now GitHub is from Microsoft. So GitLab is some GitLab other company, and Bitbucket, Atlassian company, took that source code and created their own GUI tool called as a Bitbucket, guys. So one tool called as a Bitbucket. This is GitHub, GitLab, gitlab.com, guys. Okay. So this is, for example, this is GitLab and Bitbucket. Yeah. So bitbucket.com. Okay. So this is also a repository. You see, Atlassian company provided the Bitbucket. So some other guy, GitLab, Microsoft, GitHub. So if you learn anyone, something like a GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket, it's same like as a the other ones also. The same like as a other ones. Guys, understood? Yeah. So what is a source code repository tools? So why source code repository tools? Multiple developers will work for a project development. Project development developers will be working from multiple locations. Multiple locations. All developers, all developers code should be stored at one place. One place, right? Something like a code integration. And to integrate all the developers source code at one place, we will use source code We'll use source code repository softwares. Softwares. Example, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Okay. So who developed Linus Torvald? So developed the Git, and so he released as a open source. Git is a CLI, so we can use the Git and we can use the Git commands, CLI commands, and we can work on the Git. So how? So something like the developer. So in their laptop they created the code, right? So they created the code, but the code uh, the code does not know the a local repository. So how you can know the local repository? So for that purpose, we can use git add and git commit. So then it will know the git, so local repository. So from git local repository we need to push it to the remote repository. So by using the git push, git pull commands. Okay. So this is the way we can do it. So how you can install the git setup on your local machine? Then how we can execute these commands, how we can execute this command to push the code from your working tree to local repository to remote repository, and we'll show you so how you can push the code from CLI, GitLab, Git CLI, and over the we can use the VS Code also. Then we can push it to the remote repository. So in the remote repository also, so we can create the files, we can add the files, we can commit the files. So we can create it in GitHub repository in the remote repository. We'll show you that part also, guys. Guys, understood? Guys, any doubts? Yes, speak out, guys. Yeah. So what is a Git client? Guys, what is a Git client? So does anyone knows? So what is a Git client? So no one will not speak. Huh? So what is a Git client? So what is a Git client, guys? So Git client is also known as a Git or Git bash is used in dev or config mission. So that connects with the GitHub, GitLab. So what is this? So this is the Git bash. What is this? So we can install the Git and Git bash. So from your local mission. So from that, how we can push it from your local directory to the local repository, then local repository to the remote repository. We can use Git bash and we can push that code to the remote repository. You guys understood? So what is a Git client? So Git client is also known as a Git or Git bash. Git or Git bash is used in developer mission that connects with GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. Bitbucket. Is understood? So Git. So this is Git. So whenever you create a repository, for example, FBB app, whenever you create the repository, a default branch. What is that? A default branch will be created. The default branch is a main branch. What is that branch, guys? A default branch is main branch. So here So what is the branch? So whenever you create a repository, a default branch will be created. That branch will be main branch. So what is branch? Why branch? I will tell you. Okay. So what is a branch? Branch. So what is a branch, guys? Maintain separate code base for the applications like a development branch, production branch, UAT branch, stage branch, hotfix branch, testing branch, right? So why they are creating? So a main branch contains the code. That code is deployed under the production environment. That code is deployed under the production environment. So if you change any modifications on the main branch, so main branch, right? So if we deploy it, definitely it will be the code will be something like the code is a code will be crashes. Something like whatever the code you deployed, right? That code will be in the production. So whenever there is an issue, so this main code will download that code and deploy it in the production. So if you modified that code, right? So there is no duplication of the data. That's the reason. So we cannot touch the main branch code because of this is then deployed in the production branch, right? So we can create a new branches like development branch, production branch, or UAT branch, or future branch. So right, so we can create the branches and we can modify the code on your branches. Then you can create the merge request, pull request. I will show you guys what is merge. So right, you can create the code, whatever the code in your branch, then we can push from that branch to main branch, with the help of reviewer, Guys, understood? So what is a branch? So it maintain separate code base for the applications like a development branch, production branch, UAT, stage, hotfix branch. What is that? A separate code base for applications. Code base for applications like development branch, development branch, production branch, okay, UAT branch or stage branch or something like a hotfix or something like a testing branch and etc. Guys, understood? So if you create your own branch and you can modify the code and you can push the changes from your branch to main branch with the help of reviewer, your lead or manager. If the guy is verified that code looks good, he will merge it the code from your branch to the main branch. So now you understood the branch, right? So yeah. So now you understood the local repository also. What is local repository? The developer mission contains code at a .git folder. So the developer mission contains a code at a .git folder. So what is that, guys? .git folder. This is the git bash. This is the git bash, right? ls. Is there any PSP test? Yeah. CD BMS test. You see, guys, so before it is not showing the main here, but now it is showing the main. So if you have the branch, it is showing the branch in the end of the folder. So that is nothing but a local repository where this is your local repository. And so here you see BSP test or BMS, right?
Can you show from CLI? Can you show from
Yeah.
CLI how did you connect to that?
How do you
How
connect
did you
to?
to the BMS test?
Yeah. So we need to communicate from your local to,
How did you do that?
yeah. So we can use the, a token. We can create a token, and while sending the Docker push, if you use the, Git push. So
No,
while
first of
doing
all,
the,
how did you connect to that BMS test? That I'm not sure.
how you can connect from your remote repository to local repository, right?
From the Git CLI, how did you
Mm,
connect to that BMS test?
yeah, you can connect by using the git clone command.
Can you show? Did you show that command?
Yeah. Mm, yeah. So good question. Yeah. So if you want to clone, if you want to get the that BMS test from your remote repository to local repository, so whatever you can use the git clone command. What is the command? Git clone command. So I will show you that one. So what we created FB app.
See, this is what is happening, Hari.
Yeah.
If you can, come series by series, right? We will be able to understand very well. Okay,
Yeah. You will.
half an hour talk. If you
Mm,
can show us in 10 minutes,
mm,
and then talk, right? That will be very great.
yeah. I will show.
Because
So this is the.
whatever theory you are talking, right, for
Mm.
40 minutes, it won't be. We will not be able to understand unless you show that immediately practically.
Yeah, I will show you. I will show you. Just so you know something, right? But some people are doesn't understand what is local repository. Once you show the theoretical, then I will show you the
No, if
practical.
you
You
finish
able to.
entire theoretical,
Mm-hmm.
then we will not understand. You show that live, people will
Mm-hmm.
able to understand, and then you add up your theory. That will be great.
Yep. For example, yeah. Yep. So we created a one repository. How we can get this repository from your remote repository to local repository? So you can use the git clone command. What is the clone? So git clone command to get the repository from remote to local. What is the command? Git clone. So git clone is the command. So yeah, so it is cloned, but you appear have to clone a empty repository, right? So you cloned from a remote repository to local repository. Then go to the FB app directory. You see, so this is the local repository, and this is your remote repository. So if you want to push the code from local repository to remote repository, you can use the git push command. What is the command? Git push command. Then from the other guy is pushed the code from the other guy is pushed their code from to the remote repository. So you want to get that, you want to sync the same like as a remote repository as local repository. You can use the git add, git push is push the code, and git pull is pull the code. Whatever the latest code is updated in the remote repository, I want that code sync with my local repository. You can use the git pull. So for the first time, you need to clone from you need to clone by using the git clone command. So for the first time, we can use the git clone. So from remote repository to local repository, then you can, whatever the code you modified, right? You can use the git push to push the code from your local to remote repository. So you want to pull the code from your remote repository, local repository, you can use the git pull command. So for the first time, you can use git clone command to get the remote repository to copy the zip folder or a directory into local machine. Okay, from the local machine. This is your local directory, local repository. A local repository contains .git, right? ls-la. So you see, so if you have the .git, a .git contains a configuration files about the Git. Configuration files about the Git. Guys, understood?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So local repository developer mission contains code at a .git folder. Yes, .git folder is there. So the second, so what is a remote repository? So what is remote repository, guys? So GitHub, remote repository is the GitHub contains code connected to all developer missions. Developer missions. Guys, understood? So what is a branch? What is a Git client? So what is a local repository? What is a remote repository? Now you understood. So what we will show you tomorrow, how we can set up the environment. So environment setup. What is that? So environment setup. So what is the environment setup? I installed the Git and Git bash here. So tomorrow I will show you how to install the Git and Git bash in the Windows machine. Then how we can clone the repository from remote to and local, and how we can set the how we modified, right? So we need to set the global username and email. So whenever you push the code, right, push to the remote repository, the so then it will understand who is modified the code, who is and who is the committed the code will show you. So how to register and log in GitHub account. So this is the right. I already show you how I logged in. So tomorrow we'll show you how to create a account, how to sign up, the GitHub account or sign GitLab account or Atlassian. We'll show you tomorrow, and how to install the Git on your local Windows machine also. I will show you tomorrow. So how we can get the communication between the local to remote repository. So through the something like a generate a password token. So if you give the password token, right, then they will be establishing a communication between your local to remote. So your local to remote, how we can establish the connection between the remote to the local by using the token password. We have a token will be generated. So that token will push it to the, so we can provide that token, and then we'll get the communication between your remote repository to local repository. Then, so how we can create a Git repository, empty repository, add a Git repository, how we can add that username password, then how we can modify our file, how we can create a files, how we can push that files to the local repository, then how you can create the branches, how you can merge the code, how you can see the logs, status. We'll show you tomorrow, guys. Okay, guys, understood?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll continue from tomorrow. Tomorrow you will understand more. So he's asking, Pawan,
Yes.
Pawan, right? Pawan.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tomorrow you will understand how we can set up the environment. So once you set up the environment, whenever we run the commands, right, that time I will show you what is local repository, what is remote repository, everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you recap, can you show the, whatever you discussed right till now
Mm,
in the live
mm,
once again?
mm,
Let's say,
mm.
can you create a empty repository and try to clone it again?
New repository.
Okay, this is the storage location, right?
Yeah, this is the storage location. So for example, Pawan is the repository.
Uh,
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm creating a public repository, then create a repository. So how you can clone? First time we want to get from your remote to local, we using the git clone command. Okay. Copy this one. So we can clone the repository from remote to local in two ways. One is HTTPS, the other one is SSH also. Git clone repository. So Pavan is the repository, storage location, right?
Mm.
Pavan. Yeah, it is downloaded with empty repository cd Pavan. You see, this is the a local repository. You
How do
clone
you
from.
know, for example, let's say once
Mm,
you connected to a repository, how do
mm,
you know to which repository you are connected? For example, let's say there are two repositories, right?
yeah, git remote -v. The command you can use git remote. So this local repository connected to which remote repository.
Okay, it will
I
tell.
will show you, Pavan. I will show you everything.
Sure, sir. No, the only thing,
Mm,
why
mm,
I'm
mm.
stressing is
Yeah, yeah,
when you
yeah.
show
I will show
practical,
you. I
right?
will show you. If you want to add a new local repository to the remote repository, I will show you how to add that Git upstream. You are asking
Sure.
about that, right?
No, I don't know anything about Git. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
since I am
So
learning,
end of this session, you will get a good exposure. Definitely, I will promise you.
sure, sir. No problem. I respect your knowledge. What my only thing is, if it be more, see, I don't know the topic of Git. Okay,
Mm,
but I can
mm.
understand when you show me live. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. I
more
will show you. I will show you live one more.
yeah.
So
Let me
today I will
finish.
show you how you can clone this. So the
Let me
people doesn't understand, right?
Yeah, let me finish what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk 50 minutes, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that whatever you spoke after, some 30 minutes back, we'll forget it. But now whatever you are
Mm-hmm.
showing that live, that we can
Mm.
remember that. Okay.
Yes,
So that
yes,
is the
yes.
reason, try to be cut short the theory and
Mm.
explain during the labs only. That
Mm.
would
Yeah,
save
yeah,
time.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
But why I
Cool.
am telling is something like a branch. He doesn't know what is branch.
Yeah,
He
that
doesn't
time,
know what is.
when you say branch, you show us, how to create a branch, what exactly the branch. Then you
Uh,
can add theory. Okay.
yes, yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
visualization without knowing the topic will be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. We'll show you. We'll show you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Guys, we'll continue from tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, this course will help.
Yeah, yeah. Go
Hello.
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Sir, this course will help us in like learning CI/CD, is it in the Docker, Kubernetes, and everything. So
No, no, no,
in
no.
that
There is
also
a
we will use
separate
the.
session.
Mhm.
So there is a separate session that is Docker Kubernetes with Jenkins.
Okay, so there also we need to use the Git only, no? So if we learn the Git here, so we can use
Mm.
that knowledge over there, right? No need of
Yeah,
again
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can use over the.
that knowledge is required. Is
Mm-hmm.
sufficient? Okay, okay, okay. Sure, sir.
Yep, yep, yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Git is everyone nowadays, everyone is using Git, right? For example,
Yeah.
QA. They created the automation test cases where they need to store their code in the central repository. So for example, they are also using GitHub, GitLab, or something like Bitbucket. So for example, operational engineers or a develop Linux, something like a DevOps engineer. They are
Mm.
also building the code for CI/CD or infrastructure, right? So they want to store their code in some other location, a shared location. So they are also using the GitLab or GitHub, Bitbucket, whatever the repository tools to store their code, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Nowadays is everyone is using Git. So that is the reason everyone can learn Git.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, thank you guys. We'll continue from tomorrow.